1. So I work at a hotel that is geared towards business travelers, but the clientele changed when COVID hit. Rates were lowered and we began getting absolutely horrible guests. Over the weekend, one person gave me a negative review saying that I was oddly too nice, and had to be on drugs and demanded the manager do something about it. I get yelled at over petty things so often it is rare that I sympathize with the guests anymore. Last night was different. Around 8:45 p.m., a guest came back from her grandmother's funeral saying that her card wasn't working. I figured it was demagnetized since that happens all the time, so I remade it. She came back saying it wasn't working, so I went back upstairs with her to see what was going on. Neither her key nor my master key was working, so the battery died. I went back downstairs to get the black box that can open up doors. Sorry, not in maintenance, so I don't know the actual name for that. But it didn't even register that it was connected. I even tried it on a vacant ready room to make sure I wasn't doing anything wrong, and it worked. I called my manager, who told me to call the maintenance person. I tried calling her 5 times with no answer, so she told the person above her to call me. He tried to walk me through it, but the door still didn't budge. By this point, the guest was very upset because the medication she needed was inside, and on top of that, she had taken the COVID vaccine earlier in the day and was beginning to feel side effects from the shot. By this point, I gave her Tylenol complimentary because I had pretty severe side effects from the vaccine myself, so I know what she was going through. I also transferred her to a new room, but she did not want to go there because she wanted to know exactly when the door was opened. The next step was to call the fire department to have them take the door down, according to my manager. I tried calling the fire department's non-emergency number but wasn't getting through. This was me being kind of dumb, honestly, because I had never had to call the fire department before, so my manager told me to call the non-emergency number for the police and they would transfer me to the fire department. I did so, and they instead transferred me to 911. I explained to them the situation and even mentioned the fact the guest needed her medicine, hoping maybe working that angle would get them to come over. But they said since it wasn't an immediate medical emergency and no one was trapped in the room, they couldn't do anything. They recommended I call maintenance. Luckily, my manager was able to get in touch with our maintenance person and she came over to help. She tried the black box again to no avail, and then had to run a wire-type tool, again not in that department so I don't know the actual names, underneath the door to try to unlock it from the inside. This went on for another 30 minutes to an hour. The whole situation had been going on for 2 hours at this point, and the guest demanded we call a locksmith. I called my manager again to ask her if we could do that. She said no, because most of them do not work on electronic locks. I communicated this to the guest, who demanded I call her back and ask again. When I did, the guest started talking to her, so I put her on speaker so she could hear about it unfiltered through me. The manager was less than sympathetic. The guest was very angry at this point, for good reason, and said that my manager was at home comfortable while she was not able to get to her medication. When my manager mentioned the new room, the guest said, "Are you going to deliver my medication to the room? Because that is the problem."
You know the answer to that.
My manager eventually gave in and allowed us to call a locksmith. The first locksmith was unable to do anything to help. She tried her best, but she couldn't get through. She recommended another locksmith who could do it. When he arrived, he went through 3 different tools before getting out an electric saw to cut through the deadbolt. This was at 1 a.m., so I expected noise complaints. My expectations were quickly met as I dealt with people whose walls were vibrating when they were trying to sleep. One said he was not going to pay for the room. The locksmith was eventually able to cut through the deadbolt, and the guest was able to get her things and move to her new room to finally get some rest. I was supposed to leave at 11 p.m. I ended up leaving at 1:40 a.m. The irony is I was not supposed to work yesterday. Someone else asked me to take over for him, and I felt obligated because I unintentionally had to take the day off a couple of weeks earlier, because my own COVID vaccine side effect systems were much worse than expected. Update. I came into work at the hotel for the first time since the incident, and the maintenance person saw her get the medicine that night. It wasn't insulin or any kind of prescription, it was Advil. I stayed until almost 2 a.m. so she could get Advil. 2. Buckle up and keep your hands and feet safely tucked in at all times to make sure you do not get any bodily attachment bit off from the spirit ride through the abyss of local Karen shenanigans. Also take note, this was a couple years ago now, so back in BC times, before COVID, which my brain has been a little warped from COVID here, and some memories may be a bit distorted, but I will set you on the ride of local Karen in a moment. Once again, please keep your hands and feet in at all times. It was a busy Friday or Saturday night, one where we were almost completely sold out and a local game of some sorts was happening in town. Our favorite seller's hooking was selling rooms that had jacuzzis in them, when we were completely sold out of those rooms. I was working by myself, not too fresh-faced, but fresh-faced to second shift life. I had to keep apologizing to guests and explaining that we did not have any more of those room types, and that hooking was unfortunately the one to get a hold of about the issue, as it came through our end as a regular suite instead. Karen came in with her husband to check in. It was for a regular suite room, so I didn't think much about it myself and got them all settled away. It was normal interaction of a regular check-in with no foreshadowing of the fateful future events. Now, to give some info for the cast, me. Karen is our lovely antagonist of the situation. HK will not be housekeeping, but husband of Karen. C will be for the child, and AGM as well, you guessed it, my AGM. Also, please take note that I was roughly 6 months pregnant at the time and did not show an ounce of it. I just looked pudgy or a bit over healthy weight. But not enough to make anyone question it, as guys were still guys at the hotels, and I had to start wearing a fake protection shield on my finger. It didn't always work at the time. Back to the story. Maybe 30 minutes after the encounter, she came storming up. I could see fire when I looked in her eyes.
Why does my room only have one bed, and you call that a suite? I need 2 beds, and where are my family going to sit when they visit?
She screamed at me. I was completely confused by her words and went back into her reservation. I checked where we can see all changes made. Only change that was made was adding in her address and assigning the room number. No changes for her room type were made in the system as I had figured. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I don't see any changes, and it specifically was put as a regular king room in our system by hooking. If you want, I can upgrade you to a king suite with a pull-out couch, as I'm sold out of my double bed suites. But it will cost a bit extra, as this rate you have is for a regular
No! I want the double bed suite, and it needs to be on the bottom floor so my grandmother, who is using a walker, can easily get to us.
She started throwing a tantrum right in front of the lobby and in front of other guests who needed something. I know there were more words from her end. I'm more of just paraphrasing what she said, as I mainly remember just tidbits and a lot of yelling. HK came walking from around the corner and told her to go back to the room they were in, and he would handle the situation. I'm sorry about that. My wife is under a lot of stress. What can you do for us so we can have a room that others can come to visit us, and for my daughter to have a place to sleep? I once again told him about the king suite and that it wouldn't be on the first floor, as the only suites on the first floor are already taken by other guests. He was very understanding, as we had an easily usable elevator. Can't say the same about it now. That family could use, and that the family wasn't actually expecting to come over either. It's just what she wants them to do. I got him squared away and sent him with new room keys and let him know that there should be everything needed for the couch in the closet, but if not, to let me know and I will bring them right up. I kept my calm the entire time. I could feel the tears trying to escape, but just like the cop in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, I forced them back up and made them stay. The other guest in the lobby was silent during the entire interaction. As soon as HK walked away, the tears started. I asked if they could give me a moment, which they happily agreed to, and told me that no one should talk that way to anyone. I went in the back, where I could not be seen, but could easily watch cameras, and I wiped my face and cried like a baby for probably 5 minutes. I finally composed myself and went around the corner to help the guests again, when, you guessed it, Karen is back. She took one look at me and started in all over again.
I can't believe we are being treated this way. The table in the room will not be big enough.
Only 2 chairs at said table, yada yada. Her husband came around the corner and noticed I had cried due to me having big puffy red eyes. "Did she make you cry?" Karen shut up immediately. I looked between the two, the other guest sitting down in the background not listening to the conversation.
"She totally was, though."
"Yes, but it's because my hormones are all out of whack. I'm pregnant, so anything sets me off to cry or yell these days." I say it, trying to brush it off as nothing. He looks one time at his wife, and she's looking down, almost like she is ashamed, and then walks away. He apologizes for her, and hands back the keys to the other room they were in, and walks away. I go to help the other guests, who are fuming now about the lady, ready to wreck her if I were to slip the room number. I did not, and she apologizes to me multiple times and everything. She only needed help with the Wi-Fi, which I tried as best I could, and ended up having to have my AGM come in to help with. The Wi-Fi had been spotty lately, so when I put her in a room, I knew it to be one of our quieter ones, and one that she could easily use the Wi-Fi in. I was wrong. While helping her, though, the daughter comes down, and I hadn't seen her, but the other guest did. She casually mentions how wrong it is to yell at a pregnant woman for something she was not to blame for. I thought she was talking to me, but now to think about it, she knew the daughter was there. Daughter definitely overheard and butted into the conversation immediately. I thought it was going to go bad again. "Wait, she talking about my mom yelling at you? Are you pregnant?" I looked at her, my mouth most likely open with not knowing how to reply. The other guest nods her head in confirmation. The daughter's face lights up in anger, but she doesn't mention anything, and asks for the stuff for the couch, which I had already available in the back, as I was expecting a busy night. I hand her the items, and not even 2 minutes later, she has her mom by the arm dragging her down the hallway. She demands her mother to apologize to me or else she will never talk to her again. Stuff a teenager would say when completely ashamed of their parent acting like a child, etc. I was completely blown away and mentioned it was okay, really. Please note, this was not the last of local Karen, as there is a hepatology of this Karen. But once COVID started, she vanished like the wind. 3. For the last few weeks, night audit has been very slow at the inn. Typically, I don't see or talk to anybody except for 1 or 2 people checking in late, and the same for early checkouts in the morning. But a few nights ago, I meet a lady. We'll call her Karen for the sake of this. My first encounter with her wasn't anything special. Karen walked in holding a handful of lottery scratchers and a tall can of some sort of booze. She had locked herself out of her room and just needed an extra key. I asked for her ID to verify who she was, which she provided with no issue, and then handed her a copy of her room key. No drama, just a standard interaction. A few minutes later, I get a call from Karen's room. Her husband, who I assume was her husband, was asking if I had a plunger because their toilet was clogged. I told him I would bring it to his room right away. I grabbed the mobile landline, put up the away sign, and started walking out to the room. As I'm walking, Karen's room calls me again. "Front desk," I answer.
Actually, our toilet is flooding now. I grabbed some tools from my truck to try and fix the clog myself, but now water is pouring everywhere. It's all over the floor."
At this point in my head, I'm wondering what the hell they had for dinner to clog it that bad, and what kind of tool you could possibly use besides a plunger to unclog a toilet. I get to the room and find the door open. I announce myself and walk in, expecting some minor flooding from the bowl of the toilet. What I saw was definitely not minor. The gas had removed the lid from the tank and had somehow managed to break the floater system. Water was flooding out of the tank, and the bowl was already filled to the brim. And when I say flooding, I mean it looked like a small Niagara Falls coming out of the tank. I reached into the tank and depressed the plunger to try and stop the water from coming up, and found out that this just caused the water to start flooding out from between the tank and the bowl, meaning the seal had been broken. Water at this point was already flooding out into the rest of the hotel room. I then told the guests that I was going to move them to a different room. Karen said she'd go with me down to the lobby, and when I arrived, I upgraded her to a deluxe room for free and made her new keys. As I was handing her the new key, she looked me dead in the eyes with the most shit-eating grin she could muster and said,
"Oh, by the way, what time does your manager come in tomorrow? I want to see about getting a discount for all this trouble.
Oh, he should be in around 9 a.m. tomorrow, I reply with. She says okay, and goes to help her husband move to the new room down the hall. Keep in mind, during this whole interaction, water is still flooding out of the destroyed toilet into the second floor room. I find the maintenance keychain with the water key on it, and return to the room. Water has now flooded into the walkway outside the door, and most of the room is soaked. I eventually get the water turned off for the room after soaking myself in toilet water. Then I went to the electrical room and shut off the breaker for that room and the one below it. After a brisk and chilly walk back to the front desk in the 20-degree night air soaked in toilet water, I am immediately greeted by the phone ringing. Who else but Karen, right? Front desk, is everything okay with the new room? I prompt.
Yeah, everything's fine. But I want to wash this shit water off my clothes. I need some detergent compensated.
After asking her to hold for a second, I find one of our extra boxes of Purex and tell her she can come down to pick it up. I'm starting to get very agitated now because I'm soaked in toilet water, one of our rooms is destroyed, and the Karen who destroyed it is now trying to milk the hell out of us. I'm still trying to be accommodating, though. Karen gets to the lobby, and I hand her the box of Purex.
And the dryer sheets?
She asks with a completely straight face, without a care in the world. I explain to her I can only cop her the box of detergent, but we have dryer sheets in the store.
I'm allergic to Purex anyway.
She scoffs as she goes and picks out her laundry items.
I don't understand why you can't handle $3 after the shit I just had to deal with.
I gave her a discount on the items and sent her on her way. Not 2 minutes later, she comes back.
Do you have the housekeeping key or whatever so I can do all my laundry for free?
I nearly blow my top. Ma'am, unfortunately the machines don't work like that. I don't have any key to turn off the coin charge, I explain.
What's your name?
Front desk.
I just had all my fucking clothes covered in shit water because your ancient toilets exploded. And you can't give me anything to make it right? Is that what I'm supposed to believe?
Trying not to lose my mind, I say, ma'am, I am truly sorry for the inconvenience. And I understand it's frustrating. I want to work with you to make this right. However, I only have so much power. If you'd like, I can have housekeeping wash your clothes for free in our machines in the morning. But I don't have a way to disable the coin machines on the washers in the guest laundry room. Her only reply to this before leaving was,
I'm not waiting around to wash clothes covered in shit water.
I'm red in the face at this point, and I watch cameras to make sure she doesn't trash the laundry room. I didn't see her again for my shift. I explained the situation in detail in my shift report to the manager, and to my relief in the morning, word is that the manager basically told her to F off, and that she's on the DNR list for property damage now. She never got that discount. The water was covering the entire floor space of the room save for a small, maybe 8 square foot area. The water also leaked out on the walkway in the front of the room. It's an inn, so outdoor walkways. This particular area of the walkway was conveniently under some minor maintenance. So, down on the first floor walkway, there was water literally raining down in front of the room below. The room is still under reconstructive maintenance. 4. Let's name him Gustavo. He was a regular walk-in, and would ask for a single bed all the time. We always accepted him, since we never had an issue with him. He was actually a local, and would stay the night after sometimes coming from the bar, not pre-COVID. Over time, Gustavo would stay almost every night, and started to pay cash. While my coworkers kept texting our work group chat and would let us know that he came in for a room and complained that we always gave him the room for $40, no tax. That was a lie. We always gave him the room for $96, and for his complaints, we gave it to him for $94. Amazing discount, right? I never actually received the guy as a walk-in during my afternoon shift, so I felt a little left out, knowing one of our regulars. Until one night during my audit shift, I was actually taking a small snack break, and from my peripheral vision, I literally saw him standing inside the employee area, just looking at me while eating. I won't lie to you, I screamed. But once I looked back, he asked, "I'm here for my room." And I straight up looked at him with the most angered face I made and said, "Then ring the bell at the front desk. Leave this area since it's for employees only. I can't do anything until you ring that bell." And so he laughed and rung it, and we gave him the room. No complaint for my attitude. He probably understood I was scared since it was 3 a.m. and I was alone. And over time I kept getting him as a regular on my night shift. And soon after he started complaining about the $96 rate and said he was offered a $30 rate. This time he complained to me, and I responded, "Mr. Gustavo, I see you've been staying with us frequently, and we thank you for choosing us. But we have never rented a room out to you at $30. All of your stays have been between $94 and $96 with tax." He kept arguing with me, but accepted our prices. So it was pretty much smooth sailing with him from there, until he started bringing friends over now, and his girlfriend with his child. He and his friend came down with me once while working audit, and had a complaint about half of the room not having working wall plugs. Mind you, he explained it horribly, and I had to go up there to look at it. I asked if anyone was up there, and he said his girlfriend and kid were resting, so I agreed. Still didn't feel comfortable, even if it was his girlfriend. Before I went up to help, I called one of my coworkers, who was up at that time, to have her in our conversations. I FaceTimed her as well, so she can look behind me and be my eyes. And so we went up there, and his girlfriend was nowhere to be found, or his kid. But his friend was there, and both of them kept commenting about my body. They even asked for my age, which I said was 17, which was a lie. And Gustavo said, "You look too sexy to be a 17-year-old. You got a boyfriend?" And I left as fast as I could. His girlfriend went back into the room as soon as I left. I was disgusted. But I offered a room move for half of the room not functioning, and so everything was fine after that. And the next day my coworker told me that he's no longer allowed to stay. That's when Gustavo and his friends clogged the toilet with cigarettes, and even took off the batteries from the fire alarm in the room. The toilet was filled up with cigarettes and even flooded the bathroom floor. The room smelled horrible, and they even took a pillow. Since he paid cash, we went back to an old reservation where he had his credit card, and we charged him, but it failed. So we called Gustavo, and his mom answered telling us that he's napping, but that he will get scolded and pay for the damages. He came crying to us that he had no money, and only has it to cover for the non-smoking fee. A few weeks pass, and he comes in again for a room with his friends, and we refused to give out a room to him. This kept going on for the next couple of days until they gave up, and we never saw him again. 5. So this story is from about a month or two ago. I was working evening shift at a hotel. It's one of the nicest in my town, but it's still a small town. So it's not one of those super fancy ones. Anyway. So at about 4 p.m., a lady comes in to check in. Our automatic door sometimes opens on its own, which isn't too big of a deal. This happens and I say, "Oh, it's just Casper. He comes in sometimes." The crazy lady then says, "Who?" "Casper. You know, the ghost."
"That's evil. That's not good at all."
I thought she was just joking, so I laugh it off. She asks to be put on the first floor away from people and somewhere she can see her car. No biggie. I can't promise I won't put other people near her later, but I just put her at the end of the hall on the side where the parking lot is. Crazy lady comes back no more than 2 minutes later, shaking and hyperventilating. She says she can't be in that room because there's a car from Arizona there, and that's where her stalker is from. She has police records to prove it. Side note, 75% of our guests are from Arizona, because my town is the halfway point from there to Wisconsin, Michigan, etc. But whatever, I agree to move her since she hasn't touched the room. I end up putting her in our only handicap-accessible king suite because it's the only other room on the first floor where she could see her car. She comes back happy and says that she's parked where no one else can park near her. I thought she meant she took up several parking spots, but I didn't raise a stink, because we were slow that night anyways. Everything was fine for several hours until about 9 p.m. 20 minutes after I checked someone into our kitchenettes, which is a separate building across the side parking lot of the hotel. Crazy lady calls the front desk, freaking out that someone is parked right next to her and she's being harassed. I check the security cameras and see that the only other car near hers is the one at the kitchenettes.
She says, "Yes, you put them there on purpose so they can watch me through my windows and stalk me."
The building is at least 100 feet away. You can't really see anyone, especially if your curtains were closed. But I go ahead and offer to move her again. She comes to the front desk and glares in silence at me for a good 10 seconds or more. I take a breath to apologize, and immediately she says,
"I don't appreciate what you did. You did this on purpose to scare me. You talk about witches and ghosts and then let people close to me so they can harass me. It's not okay."
Now, I'm not good with confrontation, but I'm also not good when people blame me for stuff I didn't do, so I say, "Ma'am, I did no such thing. I put someone in the room they asked for."
"So they can stalk me,"
she interrupts. "These are regulars, I know him, and that's the room he likes." I was lying at this point because I just wanted her gone, but he certainly wasn't there to stalk her.
"I'm sure he is here all the time, doing witchcraft in the rooms, since you allow witches here."
Remember that part about me being bad with confrontation? Yeah. I said, "Ma'am, we don't discriminate here." I end up moving her to the kitchenette second to the end, because the end one is also a handicap-accessible king room. I didn't want to give her our only other handicap room unless someone needs it. Crazy lady doesn't even get out of her car at the room and speeds back to the front. She yells at me that I didn't give her the end room. So I look at my computer to make sure it is available, and that no one on my arrivals list needs it.
She yells, "It can't be that hard. All you do is give me the new keys and let me go."
"Lady, I have to make sure no one else needs this room before I check you in."
"I'm sure they do need the room. That's where all the witchcraft is performed. I want yours and your manager's information, and I'm taking this to corporate."
At this point, I'm super fed up and should have just kicked her out. Oh, how I wish I did. I wrote down my name and my manager's name on our business card and slammed it in front of her and said, "That's our stuff. Have fun." I give her the new keys and tell her to go. She speeds out of the parking lot into the highway that we're alongside, and about a minute later she comes back. I was watching the cameras and had no idea where she went till she came back. And then I saw the lights. The police. Oh goody, this is about to get fun. The police followed her back to the parking lot where her room was, and she was busy concentrating on backing perfectly into her spot. She actually honks at the cop. She gives up backing in because the cop is blocking her, so she pulls out, turns around really fast, and pulls forward into the spot. I thought she was about to run, and so did the cop because he turned his sirens on. A second cop car is here now, and they're talking to her. It's like this for another half an hour until I'm treating a guest, and hear a loud, and I mean loud, shout from back there. I look at the cameras and see the cops, but no lady. At this point, my manager arrives and is watching stuff happen too. Now an ambulance and fire truck is here. They tased her. She ends up getting arrested, and her car sits there for a day or two before they tow it. Manager was actually going to let her stay here while she was out on bond, when she knew I'd be working. Luckily, she got bailed, so I never had to see her again. Everyone suspects drugs, which could be part of the case. But I think this lady has some serious mental issues, whether it be PTSD, schizophrenia, or something else. Because it was more than drugs in my eyes. I hope she gets whatever help she needs, but for now, I'm glad she's gone. Thanks for listening. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw, number 58. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. And I'll pretend I didn't get distracted by recording myself singing and playing with the reverb before I actually managed to get to this outro. I just felt the urge, but we'll pretend it didn't happen. Also, I'll just take this opportunity to add a little reminder. Those of you who listen to the glitch videos, they will return when I'm strong enough to do so. Not quite there yet, but as you can see by the length of the videos I'm putting out, getting there. Because, you know, I'm putting out some long videos. It's just that when it's like 20 individual stories, that's basically 4 videos at once, is what it is. And we're getting there. It's they'll return hopefully soon. As I said on the stream the other day, I'm not George R. R. Martin, so I'm not going to give people a date for when this thing's going to be released, then not meet the deadline. I haven't cancelled them. I do appreciate your enthusiasm, and they're on my mind a lot, believe me. So, soon, hopefully. Okie dokie, with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.